From promising policy to now pushing for a ban, why has the Karnataka government pushed the brakes and a reversal on this bike taxi policy? We're looking at a battle that has moved from the streets of Bengaluru to the highest court in the land. The Karnataka government has moved the Supreme Court, challenging Karnataka High Court's order that allowed bike taxis to operate in the state. Now, the state's core argument is quite straightforward. A motorcycle, under existing law, was never meant to carry paying passengers. A pillion ride, the government says, is not a transport service. It does not become one just because money changes hands. The state goes further. It argues that permits for commercial transports are discretionary, something the government may grant, not something any operator can demand as a right. And it raises what it calls a framework problem. There is no established safety standard for bike taxis. There is no regulated fare structure. There is no mandatory insurance cover that protects women, children, or the riders themselves. The government's sharpest argument, however, is directed at the High Court itself. The Karnataka government says the court overstepped, deciding whether bike taxis should exist, as making policy is the government's job, not the judiciary's, says the government. And this is when the story gets uncomfortable for the Siddaramaiah government, because it was not long ago that the same Siddaramaiah government was moving in the opposite direction. Bike taxi workers had taken their grievance to Rahul Gandhi, telling him that up to 6 lakh families were staring at a livelihood crisis. Rahul Gandhi heard them. He backed the workers' problems publicly and saying that work is dignity, and urged the Siddaramaiah government, his own Congress government, to bring policy clarity rather than enforce a blanket ban. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah assured workers that they are drafting a regulated bike taxi policy, one that would balance safety requirements, legalize compliance, and the jobs of hundreds of thousands of gig workers that was hanging in the balance. That was the promise, but the Supreme Court petition is the reality. So what changed in just a matter of mere months? The numbers involved are staggering as well. Industry data suggests that nearly 6 lakh riders depend on this for their primary income, earning between 30 to 35,000 rupees a month. When the ban was in place in 2025 last year, these families saw their incomes plummet by more than half. Rapido alone had disbursed over 700 crore rupees to riders in Bengaluru before the ban froze operations. And the company had contributed 100 crore in GST to the government revenues. These are not small numbers, mind you. The impact was not limited to riders either. Commuters lost an affordable last mile option in a city that always faces traffic. Auto fares went up, and the traffic affected areas spiked by about 45%. The ban did not just hurt the poor, it made the city worse for pretty much everyone. Now, with the state government calling the High Court's relief an interference in policy for doing their job, the future of these 6 lakh workers hang in the balance. Is this about safety and regulation, or is this the government succumbing to pressure from traditional transport unions? Take a look at the big questions that we're trying to understand. Why did the Chief Minister promise a regulated policy back in January, only to now move the Supreme Court in April? And is the government's legal challenge a genuine concern for safety, or is it a move to appease the powerful auto rickshaw or the traditional cab lobby? Is India's legal system equipped to handle a gig economy that has already outgrown the laws meant to govern it? Ram Shastri, CEO, Drive EU and mobility expert, joining us from Bengaluru, and with us Mr. Satya Prakash, Vice Chairman and spokesperson for the KPCC. Mr. Satya Prakash, last time we spoke about this, things were moving in a completely different direction. The Congress party promised policy. You said the work is happening. You said the guidelines are being drafted. And now the same government is demanding prohibition. I mean, I'm just trying to understand why the sudden U-turn between a matter of mere months. Your Chief Minister promised a regulatory framework after the High Court order. Now it's saying the High Court is doing the government's job. It's interfering in policy making.
Yeah, hi, Kabir. I have also come to know that a SLP has been put by the state government in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I think when a government is concerned, it is responsible for all the stakeholders. In January, yes, in your show and in many shows, I did say that And even our government at that point of time thought that, we will frame some policy as far as two-wheelers are concerned, so that a huge chunk of gig workers' livelihood is concerned.
Yeah.
But as a government, it has to strike a fine balance between livelihood of the gig workers as well as livelihood of the auto rickshaws and the bike taxis. I think when the government went into policy framing, I think there was some spoke in the wheel which forced them to challenge the High Court order in the Supreme Court. I think basically the first point is, can a two-wheeler be taken as a carriage vehicle? I think there some problems are there. Point number one. Point number two, what about the insurance? How can we give insurance to a two-wheeler for the driver, as well as just because a transfer of money takes place, a commercial, how can we treat it as a carriage or a commercial vehicle? Third point is, the auto rickshaws and the bike tax and the cab drivers pay hefty fees to the government as far as permits are concerned. While here there are no permits. So
then ask for a permit. No, Mr. Prakash, I mean, you're raising the same points I already put forth in my introduction. I'm trying to understand, if there is a problem, if there is a safety lapse, then why don't you regulate it? It seems like the government is too fast and quick in eliminating it. And I think you just spoke about the auto rickshaws. There is a traditional network of how one person goes from one point to the other. You're trying to safeguard that traditional, cab network, that traditional auto rickshaw network. That's what critics are also saying, that this is more about vote bank than actual policy.
Isn't it the job of the government also to take care of the interests of the auto rickshaws and cab drivers? We have to strike a balance as a government. The gig workers also are important. I'm not telling they are not important, but the auto drivers also are as important as them.
Fine. You're right. Let's take this question to Mr. Shastri. Let me take this question to Mr. Shastri. Mr. Shastri, the government is saying that it has to strike a balance. When it's trying to look out for all the bike riders, the bike taxis, should it not look out for everybody that's going to be left out? It's great that bikes are able to go to that last mile. Last mile connectivity is great. But then what about all the auto rickshaw drivers that are going to be losing out on their jobs and money?
I mean, we have to change with the times. Auto rickshaw has been here for 50 plus years, and bike taxis have, happened in the last 10 years. Bike taxis move faster. It's very efficient. And I think the government should endeavor to regulate it if they want to make it into some sort of, make sure that they are regulated. Maybe they have insurance. I think the gig companies will allow that and will encourage that. We need to make it legal, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, you can get, if you want to go from point A to point B faster and cheaper, today bike taxi is the only way.
No, you're absolutely right. There is, so much of crores of rupees that have been disbursed by platforms like Rapido. We spoke about that GST contribution as well. But when we spoke about the ban on these very platforms a couple of months back, the real aspect that came out was the economic impact on the ban because of the ban on these riders. Now, what happens to these other traditional setups? What happens to them? They're going to be facing the same economic ban. So isn't the government presenting a credible argument when it says, how does it strike a balance? What's your opinion? What's your suggestion? How does the government here strike a balance? You're an expert when it comes to mobility in Bengaluru.
Well, Rahul, the thing is, I mean, then if you can also argue that if you have auto rickshaw, why do you have cabs? Why do you need a cab? Let auto rickshaw take me to the airport. It doesn't work. It's 45 kilometers from where I am, right? Nobody takes an auto rickshaw to the airport, right? There are certain type of trips where it makes sense, right? If you have if I have one person going to work, I don't need an auto rickshaw where I can put 2 or 3 people in. So it's fast, efficient, and make it like I said, if the government can regulate it, we should do this. Otherwise, then we can say, why do we need cabs? We can only use everything.
Mr. Satyaprakash, the mobility expert on the broadcast, is saying that you need to change with the times. Now, with 20 plus states already allowing bike taxis, Is Karnataka, I mean, that's another credible argument that's come out. Is Karnataka falling behind when it comes to mobility innovation? Karnataka, Bengaluru, where traffic is such a major problem, in a traffic choked city, why kill the fastest option?
In all those states where bike taxis are operating, tomorrow an accident happens and there is a death of a pillion rider. How is the insurance going to be given to them? Tell them, have those states got any answer for it? No. Everything is illegal as on today. The rider also is at risk. The pillion rider also is at risk. If any untoward incident happens, then you will come to understand that all those states who are operating bike taxis right now are illegal. It is a white board. It is not a yellow board. It's not a commercial vehicle. On a white board, which is supposed to be used for private travel, you are making it commercial. You are paying all the taxes for a whiteboard for personal use, and you are doing commercial activity. Is it fair? Is it legal? Is all I am asking to all those states who are there. But right now, yes. See, as a government, see what I'm trying. See, the government is walking a very tightrope. We are responsible for all the four stakeholders: the bike taxis, the auto guys, the cabs, and the customers. We are responsible for that. That is why in January.
And you're saying the best scenario is for these bike taxis to not ply. In that situation and scenario, everybody that you're trying to protect is happy. Is that what you're saying?
See, right now the government has taken an SLP to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
The bike taxis are running as usual. The High Court has given a ruling. We have taken an SLP to the Supreme Court. Let us see what the apex court of this country says. While the bike taxis will still continue to ply in Bangalore and Karnataka. So let us see what the Supreme Court says. If the Supreme Court upholds the High Court judgment, we will form policy. And now what the problem? Now I want to ask my urban expert and you also. See, you are talking only on one side. You are not looking at the other side of the mountain. Lot of taxi drivers and auto rickshaw guys whom I ask, okay sir, you are getting GST from bike taxis, you are saying. Why don't you reduce our permit charges? Why don't you reduce our other charges? While all the permit charges and everything comes into the state kitty, GST is shared by the state and center. That is why we say that today in the devolution of tax is concerned, if the center gives prosperous states like Karnataka a good return for the taxes that we are paying, we can do something for these auto rickshaw drivers and cab drivers also. See, today they are asking us, you reduce our permit charges, you reduce our taxes, yearly taxes, quarterly taxes. If we reduce for everyone, from where does the state gets revenue? So it is a catch-22 situation as far as the government is concerned.
Well, you've conceded that the government is walking a tightrope. We're not going to probe the taxes front. Very smartly, you've brought in the center over here as well, Mr. Satyaprakash. Got to give it to you. But, you know, one credible point that you did put on the table was the insurance, the safety. The government is talking about the safety. Absolutely. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Prakash. Let me go across to Mr. Shastri. Mr. Shastri, the government is right when it says that it has to look at the safety and the insurance frameworks, and they are clearly missing. Are riders willing to comply with the stricter regulations, come the regulations, or then it's going to be another aspect of, you know, how bike taxi unions come to the fore again?
I think the government should, regulate it by, making it maybe yellow board and allowing insurance company to insure both the pillion rider and the bike rider, right? They can do that. The government has all the authority, they can do that, pass a legislation and make that happen. But let's face it, today there are 12 million gig workers in India. It is going to double in about 5 years to 25 million. Today, the gig workers make up 2.5% of our employment in India. That's huge. And, and actually in about 5 years, it'll be a $250 billion economy, one gig economy, right? $250 billion. The reality is the technology is changing. The market is changing. I mean, I understand the challenges that the government is facing, but please give some opportunity for the gig workers to get, make some decent livelihood, right? They come from small towns and villages. They don't have much skills. the gig economy
So
company
all the
like
hopes
us
are now
do.
pinning on what the Supreme Court is going to say about this. Mr. Satyaprakash, final 20 seconds. I want to understand why you were grinning from year to year. This is a serious matter now, isn't it?
See, what the auto drivers and the cab drivers say is, for us, this is full-time work. We do full-time work. But as far as gig workers are concerned, more than 50% of them, it is part-time for them. They do other jobs and do 1 hour, 2 hours. So they have double income. What will happen to the auto drivers and the cab drivers? They can't do double jobs. They can't work in an office. I have seen gig workers who work in an office, who run a bakery, and in the night do this job.
No, sir,
Isn't
you're
it
absolutely
hitting like
right.
a
You're
knuckles
absolutely
of-
right, Mr. Prakash. But in a city that's choking on traffic, and we have 20 plus other examples as well, shutting down solutions isn't really governance. It's giving the vibe of avoidance here, sir. That's the only thing I'm saying. And
You
you're
play-
right.
you-
Of
you
course,
play-
the special leave
you-
petition has been admitted. We'll have to wait and find out what the apex court says. And you pointed out we're agreeing that the government might be walking a very tightrope. It wants to protect everybody, but they can regulate it. It's not, avoidance is not
Yeah.
going to solve the problem over here. The real test is going to be whether Karnataka will regulate or resist bike taxis. That's the bottom line.
If Supreme Court gives a ruling upholding the High Court judgment, we have no other way.
Yeah,
We have no
exactly.
other way but to
Then you have no
regulate
other way. But you have another way right now. You could still side with the bike taxis, but you're waiting for the Supreme Court.
We
And
have
if the
to-
Supreme
we-
Court,
what
if the
about-
Supreme
what
Court
about-
says
what
no to
about
it,
the auto-
if the Supreme
what
Court
about the
agrees with the
auto
Karnataka
wallas?
government, what happens then?
What about the auto wallas? What about the cab
That's
drivers?
the balancing
We as
job,
a
no, sir. That's
government-
the balancing job. 4 months back, you were willing
that
to
is-
regulate it and balance it. Now you don't want to balance it out. Anyway,
See, I
anyway,
gave the reason.
this
I
has
gave
been
the
a riveting
reason. For
conversation.
them it
You're
is
absolutely
part-time.
right. Let's not jump the gun. Let's wait for what the Supreme Court has to say on this. This is important. 6 lakh riders, their lives and livelihoods hanging in the balance. There are government's concerns, and then there is public impact and criticism as well. Let's hope for good sense to prevail on that front. Mr. Satyaprakash, always a pleasure to speak to you here on News 9. And Mr. Shastri, many thanks for taking out the time. Well, we'll have to wait and find out what really happens. But with that, we've come to an end to this edition of In Your Interest. Catch you again tomorrow. Many thanks for watching.
Others see a teenage tantrum. I see you standing your ground. I see you, my daughter, 16 and already owning your story. And I couldn't be more proud. For you, only natural diamonds.
हमें स्वस्थ रखने वाली सारी चीजें ज्यादातर शुद्ध होनी चाहिए। सूर्य की किरणें और स्वच्छ पानी, वैसा ही है लाइन अरेबियन डेट्स। और अब लाइना डेट्स, इसमें फाइबर्स और विटामिन्स भी कुदरती हैं, जो देता है स्वास्थ्य भी कुदरती।
Lina Premium Dates. This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.
A shocking incident has been reported from Karnataka, where a fetus was found inside a toilet at a major electronics manufacturing facility. Panic gripped the premises of Foxconn near Berasandra in Devanahalli Taluk of Bengaluru rural district after a male fetus was discovered inside a woman's toilet. The incident came to light in the A41 building of the company, which employs nearly 25,000 workers, triggering alarm among the staff. Following the discovery, the company management alerted the police. A complaint was filed by company engineer Kanta Raju at the Vishwanathpura police station, seeking identification of those responsible and strict action. Police teams reached the spot, conducted an inspection and registered an FIR under sections 93 and 103 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Officials have now launched an investigation to trace the parents of the fetus. Sources say a similar incident had been reported at the same facility nearly 6 months ago, raising serious concerns. With a second case now emerging, police have intensified their probe. Meanwhile, employees at the factory remain in shock as authorities continue their investigation. Serious allegations have surfaced in the Nashik TCS conversion and sexual exploitation case, with another victim's statement now coming to light, and the complainant has alleged that obscene language was used in setting internet passwords within the company, raising concerns over workplace conduct and sensitivity. She has also claimed that the accused was hurting religious sentiments and mentally harassing her by spreading rumors. According to the statement, obscene messages were allegedly sent late at night via WhatsApp. The victim claims that despite repeated complaints to senior officials, no action was taken and the harassment only escalated. In a shocking allegation, she has stated that the accused exploited her by threatening termination from her job. The statement of the fourth victim has now been recorded before the Special Investigation Team and the Women's Commission as investigations continue into the case. Now, US soldiers, sailors, marines, airmen, guardians and Coast Guards men are deployed across the Middle East. And the US has deployed thousands of additional troops to West Asia as it seeks to pressure Iran into reaching a deal to end the conflict. The reinforcements reportedly include roughly 6,000 personnel aboard the aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush and its accompanying warships. Another 4,200 troops, part of the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group and the Marine Corps 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, are also expected to arrive near the end of this month. The buildup is expected to add to existing forces in the region, and these incoming troops will join about 50,000 US personnel that the Pentagon has said are already engaged in operations aimed at countering Iran.